And so this is Wyatt Shaw from Burlington, and he is going to be going over some different time-saving technology, hopefully that can benefit us, and I'll give you kind of like a 5-10 minute, like that way you know when you're wrapping up and all that good stuff. So hopefully we'll have some good stuff as we continue our afternoon here and more. It's all you, Wyatt.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Bethany, would you mind being my Vanna White over here? Okay. Well, I suppose it's not teaching ag if there's not a little bit of irony involved, starting late, but I appreciate you guys coming in. I'm very humbled to be here because I know that there are many presenters who have more experience and years behind them. So just know that I understand that I don't know everything, but I hope my goal for you today is that you can at least leave away with one thing that you didn't know. So let's set the expectations pretty low, but I think that this will be something that could be beneficial to you. And hopefully, even if you use some of the technologies that I'm talking about today, maybe it'll be a different way that you could use it in the future. So the first thing to take notice of is this presentation. So I am not this organized or talented at designing presentations. This whole presentation that you're seeing was created in Canva. And Mr. Taylor, during the program marketing workshop earlier this morning, alluded to Canva. It is an entirely free resource to you to be able to do advertisements, flyers, logos, presentations, pretty much any type of media material that you need to design. Canva has the ability for you to do that. And just to prove that these workshops are meaningful, we learned from the ag teacher at Lindsay this morning that even the pro version on Canva is free for teachers if you upload your teaching certificate to the site. So that's just a quick little excerpt about this particular resource. So this is kind of where we're going with our 45 minutes, what we have for us. We're going to talk about where we spend our time, and then I split it into 5 different categories of technologies: creativity, organization, learning/education, finances, and then smart tools. Okay? So let's start with talking about where we waste our time. Okay? Probably not to anyone's surprise, social media is one of the leading ways that people across the U.S. waste their time. Depending on your perspective, you might say that it's beneficial to your well-being, but maybe not. The average person in America spends 2.5 hours on Snapchat, on social media, which includes Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all those different resources. Huh? Per day. 2.5 hours per day, not per week, per day. For those of you who are Apple users, if you were curious how much time you spent on your iPhone, most of you probably know there's a resource called Screen Time on your iPhone that shows you how much you spend on each app. It can be alarming at times. Emails, this is probably going to be different for ag teachers. I know my ag teacher had thousands of unread emails because he refused to look at them. The average work person, though, in the U.S. is probably going to spend a few hours on emails just because that's the nature of their job. I'm sure that Rose spends more time on emails than we do because of how much people are asking her questions and wanting to know more information. Procrastination, so putting things off into the last minute. So we spend on average 3.5 hours per week putting things off or 218 minutes per day, sorry. So think about that. 3.5 hours every day that you're not doing something that you know you should be. This isn't to make you feel bad because the point of this is to help you, even though we know we procrastinate as ag teachers. And then the last two, and arguably the most important, is having no motivation and having no organization. I know for me in the last couple of years what I've realized is that a lot of this has more to do with me as a person and figuring out, okay, how can I be at peace with my job and my family and my friends and my relationship, because if those things don't work, then it doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, you're always going to be struggling. So experts say to do low-value tasks if you're feeling unmotivated. Start with things that are mundane that you know you need to do that aren't as important to your day. So that's just a little bit of a snapshot of where we spend our time, and hopefully this presentation will address how we can save some time. Okay? So as I mentioned earlier, the first category was creativity with Canva. I don't need to spend any more time explaining what it is. I'm going to get on the computer later and give you guys some insight to how it works, and we'll actually go through. So I'm going to go through the presentation quickly so that then we can go through and talk about some of the things. Mr. Taylor, you weren't in here earlier, but I did mention you that we learned some valuable information about having this for free, the pro version. So we'll be able to do that trial that you wanted to do earlier and go through some stuff. So these are some examples. So I noticed for Mr. Taylor, a lot of the nature of his work was social media. So the primary purpose for these was print materials, flyers. So we planned a 5K, but it was canceled because it was scheduled 2 weeks after the pandemic. So OIE hit, March 14th, we all left, went home, and then this was supposed to be 2 weeks later. So we made this flyer for the 5K, but we didn't get to do it, but that was all made in Canva. And then we do a Christmas tree lighting in the center of Town Hall every year, and we made this flyer for the Christmas tree lighting. And keep in mind, these don't take more than 30 minutes because a lot of the templates are already on there. So even if you say to yourself, I'm not a designer, I'm not creative, these templates are on there for you. All you have to do is change the writing and change the coloring if you want. This was something that I made last year to honor our seniors. We didn't get to do anything special for them, so I wanted to do something to post on our website. So a fun fact about the background is this molecule background and then the FFA logo at the bottom right was available to everyone, and it currently is available to everyone on National FFA. And we'll go and look at that site in a little bit so that you guys can see where to go if you wanted fonts, logos, backgrounds, images, all for free. And so all I did was put that background on, I had the students send me the picture, and then Canva was able to help me do the rest. Like I said, we'll go back and look at that. We're just going to go through these quickly so that you know what we're talking about. S'more.com is something that I haven't used yet. When I was preparing this presentation, I called different ag teachers, people in finance, people who have worked for national organizations like FFA, because I wanted to get an idea of what different people were using. So S'more.com is designed to help you make newsletters. So if you wanted to do a newsletter for a class, a newsletter for a yearly in review to send out to your sponsors or to your stakeholders, it is a simple way to create your own newsletter, but you can also create flyers. For me though, personally, what I'm going to use it for is newsletters, because that way it keeps people in the loop. It's similar to Canva in that it provides the template for you. There's a paid version, but I think that we could all agree when it comes to investing in our students, we have the resources, especially for these subscriptions, so it's worth the price, because we're investing in them. And for me, I never bat an eye if it comes down to, something material and something that's actually going to be worthwhile for their education. So we'll go back and look at that later. Here's an example of what one could look like. I'm not kidding, I did this in 5 minutes. And that is not a testament to my ability, that's just how quickly and easy it was to do. So let's say that you're at a bigger school and you have to do a lot of recruiting, because if you don't, you're going to lose good students. For me, that's a little bit different because we have 35 students in the whole high school. So I'm getting essentially every student that comes in, and my class is more or less required. The only time they don't take my class is if they're very poorly behaved or if they just absolutely positively do not like agriculture or FFA. So that's usually maybe 2 or 3 kids. So if you wanted to do some recruiting and you say, okay, well, I'm doing the animal science class next year, so you're going to do some little snapshots of what you guys do. So you can do, like here, it kind of gives you an overview of what the class is, the time frame, so that they know when they would be taking that class, just kind of a through line to get them hooked, FAQs, and then contact information. And I just pulled these pictures up offline. Those aren't actually mine. So that's what that can look like as an end product. Okay, organization. So Todoist is also something new that I learned from other people. For those of you who are Apple users, you probably use the Remind app on your phone. If you use Siri, you can just say, hey Siri, make a reminder to take out the trash tonight. She can set the time frame for you. She can set the date or how often you want to repeat it. Todoist is more a general audience. You can go online. You can create different categories. Like if you wanted to say, okay, this is my public school category. This is my church category reminders, and you can set all these different areas so that it's not a list of all the things you have to do. You can organize it into things that you're interested in. So the next slide will show this picture more visually. So it's a little bit blurry, but here's what the different categories can look like. So if you had a bunch of different things that you wanted to categorize it into, change the color, put the category, and then you come over here and you can add the tasks. You can assign a time frame. You can repeat that if you want it to remind you every week. So this is going to help you get all of the tasks that you have to do in a week or a month or a year and organize it into a manner that makes sense for you. Remind app is really good, but it doesn't have that much editing skills. And if you're not an Apple user, then you don't have that resource. So Todoist is free. You don't have to pay at all. So anytime something is free, it's music to our ears as ag teachers.
So does this just give you like a notification on your phone like Remind App would, or can it set like an alarm for you?
Both, yes. So you can use this as a desktop application if you're sitting at work in your office, or if you want to download onto your phone, it can do all those things for you. What questions do you have so far? Okay. Toward the end, we'll do kind of like Mr. Taylor did this morning, an idea share, because I know that there will be things you guys think of by the end of this that you use that we didn't discuss here. So be thinking about some of those things, because at the end, I want to take some time to write them on the board, and then when I send my giant list of like 30 time-saving technologies for the overall drive, I'll add the ones that we discuss here today in that drive as well. Okay, G Suite. Raise your hand if your public school system uses the Google Suite. So more, you guys don't have Google as your primary source of email?
No, we have several different things we use.
Okay.
I mean, we have Google, like we can use Docs and everything, or we log into that when we do like YouTube and stuff. But other than that, we have a OneDrive here.
Oh yeah. I've used that before.
And we use Canvas. We have multiple different outlets we have to use and keep up with messages from like Canvas, messages on email, Outlook.
So it's difficult then to be able to keep everything centrally located.
Yes,
because you have different.
It's virtually impossible. It's not impossible, but.
Who in here feels like they've become a G Suite expert? Okay, good for you guys. I'm not. I learn something new about Google every day, and it feels like they're coming out with new technologies for it just about every day as well. We're going to talk about some of these. We don't have enough time to talk about every G Suite app that's available to you, but it's basically a cloud system. So if you have a Google email, you have access to all the apps, if you didn't already know that, at the palm of your hand. So we'll talk about some of those. Okay, so here's an example. Last year, I was getting ready for officer applications, 2 years ago actually, and I didn't want to waste paper, and I wanted to find a really easy way to email my application judges the applications. So I noticed that Cameron Dale at Bartlesville used forms a lot. I had never used them, and so I thought, well, forms can be used for a variety of things, so I'm going to make my officer application. So here again, I'm using National FFA resources. That's the molecule background that they provided to give it an FFA look. But basically what I went and did is just created the whole application. The students don't write anything. They type it all in, and at the beginning they can even check mark like, I agree to the following criteria. And Mr. Gustafson here at Moore, he called me and he was trying to get help on how to make his officer applications in Google Forms. And we even got to the point where the officers could sign, not with a pen obviously, but they could sign on the Google Form application before they turn it in. So if you really want to make it official, that's also on there, and we can go back and look at this form in a second. Okay, Google Classroom. Who in here hasn't used Google Classroom yet? Okay, a couple people. It's not perfect, and especially for people who would prefer to be in person, which is mostly everyone. I think Google Classroom is great for subplans or CDE teams or anything that doesn't require an in-person capacity. You can send your students to Google Classroom and have all the materials on there, and we'll look at it earlier, so I don't want to take too much time right now. For the few of you who haven't seen it yet, if you go to the stream on the Google Classroom, this is what it looks like. So it would say the name of the class, the code, which is a terrible code that they popped up on there, but you never know, it's just random. So I can talk to my students on there, they can respond, but I can also block them or limit what they say. On the classwork, I can go and post assignments. People shows me who all is in there, and then I've never used the grading option. I go straight to WinGauge, which is what we use as a public school. So.
Hey, Mr. Shaw.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if your school made you guys do it, but when we had to have virtual, there's also an option in there that you can click on it, and it gives them a Google Meet link that everybody can just click onto if they're in that class.
Right.
You don't have to send out those Meet links all the time.
Yes. So if you're not using Zoom or Microsoft, then you could use Google Meet. This is for learning. So AgEdNet is basically just another one of those long list of things you can do online for resources. So ICEV and AgEdNet, those would all be the same type of curriculum. AgEdNet is a little bit different than ICEV in that it's not like a classroom. It is a resource bank. So if you're like, okay, I'm teaching horticulture this semester. You get your AgEdNet subscription, you go click on horticulture, and then it gives hundreds of lessons on all these different topics. And it's not a lot of money. It's like $400 for a year. So let's say you're about to leave for Tulsa State Fair. You're going to be gone for 2 weeks, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have subplans. And maybe you don't have ICV, or maybe you don't have something online where they can go in and do all the learning management system by themselves. AgEdNet already has the article with the content and then the worksheet attached to it. So you say, read this article, answer these questions. And I put all that in Google Classroom so that I didn't have to print out anything and the sub wasn't confused about what to do.
So if you had to compare ICEV with this, which one do you prefer?
I only used ICEV when I was student teaching, so I'm about to start ICEV this year just to try it. I've heard mixed things about it, but I think it's a good resource, and I want to see what it's like compared to this one. But I think it would be kind of comparing apples to oranges a little bit, because this one is more articles and worksheets, and whereas ICVE is a true learning management system. At least that's what it's intended to be. You can go through, watch the videos, answer the questions, things like that.
One thing that I use a lot is the This Week in Ag. So several articles about what's going on now.
Yes. Current information. Yeah, here this gives you a little bit of context of what's there. There's 1,300 lessons. Most of them come with a PowerPoint and a worksheet. So it really helps if you're pressed for time and you don't have the availability to sit up and make a PowerPoint for your kids. You can go on here and it's got all those resources for you. Like I said, I am zooming through this because I wanted to go back and show you some things. Google Sheets.
One thing I want to add, there is a free trial that you can get for I think it's 30 days.
Yes.
So you get access to all the lessons and everything at once, and you just go through it and see if you're interested in the other two.
Right. That way if you don't like it, you don't spend the $400. Google Sheets is essentially the same thing as Excel. Has different capabilities, and it's not as transferable sometimes, the formatting. So if you copy from Excel on your Mac or PC to Google Sheets, you will at times lose formatting and or information. So be careful going back and forth, but it's still nice to have, and I'll show you why.
And I will tell you, things that you get from the agencies that are in Excel, don't do them in Google, because then when you save them back, they're messed
Different,
up.
yes.
And you can't send us Google Forms or links to Google Docs or anything else.
Right.
Because we're not supposed to have access to Google because of something in the agreement
For Career Tech?
for Career Tech.
Gotcha.
And that creates challenges for some of us, because my school on Linux, I can't even get Word documents. I have to go to my own personal laptop to do the Word documents to submit to you guys.
We're the State Department of Career and Technology.
How am I on time? About 20 minutes?
Great.
Okay. Okay, so this is meat sales. Meat sales is a bear for everyone. This is not the perfect system, but it's a really good system. So I have my entire meat sales on one Excel file. It tallies the total of how much we raised. It gives me the profit margin per product. It tells me how much students have sold. It tells me how many items I've sold. And all of this is in Google Drive. So I can keep every meat sales I do until the end of time on here and go back and compare. And when I need to show my stakeholders concrete data, I can go back to this and be like, look at this. Look at what the students did. You know, this one fundraiser is basically a national convention. You know, I mean, it just pays for one trip because, you know, it's really difficult to make a large profit margin on this. We sold, I think, about 26,000 last year. We're a small chapter. We got about 5,600. So that's the national convention trip right there, and you might even spend more. But every bit counts. So we'll go back and look at that in a second. I'm more than happy to share that with you too, if you just want to use mine and change it for your liking. My School Bucks, I haven't used it yet. Once again, another teacher recommended this to me. If you do this, you need to discuss with your administration first, because I think the intention behind it is for your whole school district to be able to use it for profit. So if you're doing greenhouse sales, or you're selling products that you guys have made in shop class, or a student entrepreneur is doing things like as a school-based entrepreneurship, My School Bucks is there to manage all of those sales. And I actually had an ag teacher ask me last year if I knew of anything, and at the time I didn't. So you can go to the next slide. Here's a list of things that you can sell. Obviously, they're not catered to ag ed programs, so they're probably not used to FFA chapters using it, but I talked to an ag teacher in Washington that uses this for his greenhouse sales. So it is possible, but you're probably gonna have to go through your admin to get this going, since you're doing e-commerce. So okay, Adobe Acrobat. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to show you all the coolest things. This is my favorite tool that I have. So go ahead and go to the next page. So I pulled this. This is the 2021 OYE nomination report. As you can see, there's nothing below it, because I took that PDF that they sent us and I took out everything besides actually. So when someone sends you a PDF and you can't go in with like Word document and edit it, that's because it is a portable version, so it's not editable. But when you put it into Adobe Acrobat, the opportunities are endless. So perfect example, Kathy sends you an invoice for alumni camp tickets. You forgot to put on the purchase order. So when she sends you the invoice, it says June 1. You put the purchase order on June 5th. Your encumbrance clerk is mad. Okay, so what do? You go into Adobe Acrobat, remove the date. And you know what? I've actually been told to do that by companies. So when I was doing an invoice for judgingcard.com, I called them and I said, I'm sorry, sir, I made a mistake and I put the purchase order on late. I need you to send me another invoice. Nah, just take it off. Just take the date off. And I was like, well, it's a PDF. He was like, I'm sure you can figure it out. So I thought, okay, what resource do I have where I can do this? Adobe Acrobat. So you put it in. Over here to the left, I cut it out. There's an option on Adobe Acrobat that says Tools. Once you click Edit, it makes everything in the document editable. You can backspace, you can take it out, you can put new information in, some comments.
Don't you have to have the pro version to do that?
You do have to have a subscription, but it's worth every penny.
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, you do have to have a subscription, and most PDF documents default to this software. So if you were to go and click on something and open it, if you don't have Adobe, it's going to open it as a JPEG or a PNG file. But if you have Adobe, it'll open it in the correct file formatting.
Can you get the subscription just for Acrobat?
Yes.
The whole suite?
Yes.
Okay.
You do not have to buy other Adobe products. You can just buy this, and it's like $15 a month, I think. Which as much as you're going to use it, you're going to need it.
The other thing it lets you do is you can take that whole PDF and convert that PDF into a Word document.
Or vice versa.
Right.
Yep, you can. If someone sent you 10 different PDF documents, You can go in and put it together. You can organize the pages. You can delete pages. This takes hours of work, and it lets you do it in 10 to 15 minutes. And I love it. I would love to just go through and find out more ways that we can use it because it works. Genius Scan, insert random scanner app, okay? So for those of us who need to scan something quickly, this is an amazing resource. There's also one called Tiny Scan. If you'll go to the next slide, I'll show you how I use it. So I'm sure we've all had a moment where a parent or a child calls and says, hey, my pig, Billy Bob, and they literally tell you their pig's name, I can't find the tag, or I don't know what the tag number is, or whatever. And you're like, I don't know who Billy Bob is. Like, I can't find this pig. I don't have your pig's name memorized, okay? So what I do is, like, when I do the nominations, I'll write their scrapey tag number and the name that they call the animal on there. I will scan this. So, like, if I'm in Timbuktu and someone calls me and says, hey, what was the Tulsa tag number or the OYE tag number that you did, or I need to figure out what the name is, I can go to my Genius Scan app, and I've got a whole list of every nomination that I did, and then I can share this via PDF. The other thing it's good for is, like, for OLC, they wanted you to send in a scanned document with all your paperwork, like medical release waiver, things like that. Well, if you're not at a computer or if you're not at your ag building, you need to go and just take it to that student, have them sign it, pull out your Genius Scan app, and as you can see, it accentuates the writing. So it darkens it, and it just takes the image of what you're looking at, so then it truly looks like a real scan. Obviously, it's not going to be as high quality as if you were to put that on a true scanner, but when you're in a pinch, this is great, and Genius Scan is free.
Can you use your phone to do the scan?
Yep. Yep. And some iPhones have a scanning option already on the camera. Yeah.
If you go into the notes, you can scan the document.
So we'll go back and look through some stuff. I'm not sure how much time I have left. But that whole presentation, like I said, was 15? Okay. That whole presentation was Canva. I didn't do any of the graphics for that, okay? So let's start with Canva, okay? So when you get to the home screen, this is what you're going to see. It gives you all these templates. So if you're doing social media, invitations, you can go through here and look at all the options available to you. Here's your past work. Oh, this scrolls really quickly. So here's some examples of things we've done. Service with a Splash right here. That was a community service flyer that I just printed out and gave to my students. Really quick information. This was for a business card for the Employment Skills LDE. That took 10 minutes maybe. Very simple design. A lot of the logos and templates are free, so if you just typed in elk, which is what I did, that's what came up. I don't always love the options, but you have to sometimes just make do what's available to you. Some of this stuff is random. Okay, this was what I used for an invitation for our labor auction. So I sent this to a print company in Enid, and they printed this for me and then even put the addresses on the back. So I didn't have to print labels. They did it all for me. I would highly, if you're big into sending letters, I would highly suggest going through a print company and just sending them your addresses, because it just cuts out the step of having to print them and then put the labels on yourself. So then let's just say really quickly you wanted to design something. So we'll do a business card, okay? Who in here, does anyone have their own business that they do? They sell anything, entrepreneur in the room? What do you do, Rose? Crafting? Let's see what we can come up with. We'll just do creative. What's your primary color scheme?
What's
your signature color?
We don't have a signature color.
Oh, this one's very classy.
That's beautiful.
Oh, this is the pro version. Okay, so I could put Bonjour Crafts, and then we could put Stillwater. Okay. So all I have to do now, if I'm happy with this color, is come over here download it. I can change the format. So if I want to send this to someone to have printed or professionally done, I can change the type. So JPEG would be a true picture, and it's going to be a bigger file size than PNG. So then you could come over here, change the pixels. You don't really need to know all the details behind that, but if the person says, hey, I need it to be so many pixels, you just slide this and change it. And then once you're finished, you just click download, and it'll have the high quality definition for you available that you can print. And Canva is that easy. So, and I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least show you a little bit of how it works. Okay, let's go and look at the Google Suite really quick. Does anyone have any statements, comments, or questions about Canva?
Well, the only thing, like, I didn't know they did their presentations, so I learned something, so that's really cool. I even got to the point where, like, with our plasma cutter, people were like, oh, can you do this, can you do that? And so instead of going into my my CAD software and taking the time and really designing it out, I throw it together on Canva, kind of send them as a mock-up, like, hey, how does this look, as far as font or whatever. And then I just exported it as a PNG and then took it over to my CAD and then scanned it like a picture, and then your design is essentially done. And so I kind of made a workaround to get even stuff for the plasma cutter. So that way, you kind of save some time that way.
Mm-hmm. There's always somebody who knows a little bit more than you do, which is beautiful about this, because you can ask questions and learn something new. And okay, so the G Suite, I'll go and show you guys the my meat sales. Does anyone have already a online system to categorize their meat sales?
I use the same thing, but it's a different.
Who uses something different than Sheets or File or Excel?
One thing I was going to mention that we piloted a couple years ago, we turned in our meat cell orders with the Google survey.
Yes.
And then exported it directly into the Excel.
Yep.
And all you have to do is add the formula.
That's what you're looking at right here.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go to Google Forms, this is what it would show you when the students entered it. So it shows the timestamp, their name, and then how many products they had. And then we took this information and we put it into what you see here. So this shows you my students' names, the 3 different companies we use, and then at the bottom it shows you how our total count. So this let me know, like, when they call and they say, how many cases do you need? I can just look at my total, divide it by 20 sausage, and figure out how many boxes I need. And mind you, like, it's all tallying it for me, so I don't have to do any of it myself. This shows me how many of each of the price. So right here it shows you the total money was $25,999, and then it shows me per product. So we made we made 16,000 from Blue and Gold, only 3,000 from DJs. Excuse me, only 3,000 from Fresh Country and 6,000 from DJs. So if a person was trying to decide, okay, what needs to go or what products they want to push, this could show you your profit margin. So if the cinnamon rolls tanked for 2 years in a row, ask if you can do something different besides cinnamon rolls and start pushing a different product. This also validated that, I feel bad because this, people will hear this. So if I love all these products, by the way, I'm just going to say that. I'll preface with that. But, like, by and large, we make the most money on sausage. It's not even a question. And I know that because it's proven right here by the numbers. So when you're trying to really push your students, be like, okay, guys, here's our goal from last year. We know that our profit margin is this. We need to sell this many sausage to get where we need to be. And then this shows me right here how much profit we make. So we made $3,539 on Blue and Gold. Look how much we made on DJs. So and all different communities like different things. So your community might, blow up with DJs, which is awesome. That's why it's nice to have different options. our town tends to want more sausage than anything else. Okay, let's see.
Does your students fill out the Google form, like when it's time to turn in money and
Yes.
turn in order forms, they're the ones entering on the form?
And I sit with them
Okay.
because my fear was that they would enter the wrong information. So I look at their list, or vice versa, and either I'm entering it and they're reading it out, or they're entering it and I'm reading it out. So there's a 2 verification system check. That way no one is mistaken about how many products they sold.
Is that how you guys do it, Edmund?
No, we just have them do it on a survey. And don't ask me because I can't remember how I do it. But once a year, I convert that, go into Microsoft Word and do a mailing, and it exports exactly what they put in with their name, exactly what they ordered. They take it home, they sign it before the product comes in with their parents.
But do they input how much of each thing they
Yep,
ordered?
through the survey, and then I run the mailings based off what they entered, and then they take it home and have it signed, and I guess that's our check, to make sure that they got what they wanted. But I can't remember how I do it.
So you don't collect the
Once a
order
year.
forms?
Once a year I do it.
You don't collect the order forms, you just have them do it?
Not even, no, we will not touch them, because then we lost them. So no, we will not touch them.
I scan them. I scan them all, so that way I have a copy of them in case the student loses them, and then that way they can't say that it was my fault because I have a copy of it.
While you're getting that other thing pulled up, I was gonna mention, our school is real heavy on this Google Drive stuff.
Yeah.
But, they have us, because a lot of things are shareable on there, they have us, all the teachers do their inventory through the.
Yes.
So our classroom inventory has to be done and then shared.
Well, I
So-
like it, because then if your computer falls down, like just crashes, everything's still on the drive.
Yeah.
So.
Go from there.
I thought I had an inventory in here.
Wonder what they charge Google. to
Now, I
release
will
their
give you
drive.
another North Rock Creek nuance. Kids are on Google Classroom. The kids have email. They don't have access to their email.
This is something I just started doing last year, and I've kind of actively changing it. But I only have about 40 head. It's a small school. We're kind of growing with numbers every year. We gain a little bit more. But just to keep track, I do it like this so I can see the spread and like my different age students, and then I'll do each show, like if they're going to the show, if they need kids, things like that. So that's just, you might already do something like this, but just if you hadn't, then maybe it might spark an idea in your mind of another way to keep track of your data. And then before we do like the idea share, I did want to show you guys Google Photos. I don't know how many of you guys have chapter cameras. We got one through our foundation last year, and it's been really good because what we do essentially is every time I go somewhere, I immediately upload the photos within 24 hours. I bring them to Google Photos, and then I share them with our yearbook editor. So all I have to do is go here, create album. So if I wanted to say, 2021 OAETA PD, then I just come here and I can go through all my photos, and then that's shareable with everyone. So it's really nice to be able to come through here, and if I'm creating the chapter slideshow, then I can come on here and I have all my photos together on Google, and I can share it with officers. So if any of you have a Mac laptop, iMovie is the easiest way to make a chapter slideshow. And I had a student last year, I threw him into it. He got a new Mac. I said, hey, you're doing our chapter slideshow this year. He's like, I don't even know what iMovie is. And I said, well, guess what? You're going to learn. And so and of course I knew how to do it, but I wanted him to do it himself and see how easy it was. And he did it very quickly. It was super easy for him to learn. And this is the last thing I'll show you because I know I've got like 8 minutes left maybe. I want to show you my YouTube channel. I am not a YouTuber, but I have had I do have some subscribers. I think I have like 18 subscribers. It's very serious, okay? Mr. Taylor and I think, are fellow subscribers. I don't know. I subscribe to him. He probably doesn't subscribe to me because he's more famous than I am on YouTube. But during the pandemic, I needed to be creative, so I made some made some videos. And it's on my Gmail, not my personal email, not my school email. I made a YouTube channel to do like educational videos for my students. And once again, you don't have to be an expert to use YouTube, because by having Google, you have access to YouTube and everything that comes with it, besides like the movies and television and stuff. So if you come here, you can see all the videos that we have. So this is like a drone video I did, and these are the slideshows that my students produced over here to the left. So this one, my student made himself an iMovie. Took him a few days maybe. I don't think we have sound, but you get the gist of it. So you can upload this to YouTube. It's there forever, and it's super easy. It doesn't take very long at all. So I would highly recommend just exploring through the Google Suite and seeing what you can come up with, because you'd be surprised by how easy it is. So you have like a few minutes left? Okay, so turn to like a group of 2 or 3, come up with one, each group come up with one idea that hasn't been discussed, and then I'll very quickly write it on the board so that I can add it to the document that I send to you guys later.
Can you real quick show us on the FFA where you get the background?
Oh yes, while y'all are discussing, I'll pull that up.
I didn't know any well, very little of that. And never heard of it. But I don't have an iPhone, and I sure haven't spent 2 hours a day on social media. Yeah, Google I use a lot. But see, we couldn't use YouTube. School blocked in. So,